Okay, so we're going to talk about the Gartner hype cycle. Now, Gartner is a business or organization that really focuses on applications for society and the business world. It is not necessarily dedicated to education, although this hype cycle really does speak to all the different worlds that we're talking about. Particularly, this hype cycle does a really good job of describing the general path of an emerging or disruptive technology. And when we talk about emerging and disruptive technologies, we're talking newer technologies that have to flow through a market or flow through a process in order to realize their true potential and really to realize if they are disruptive or not. So a lot of technologies come onto the market and we think, oh my goodness, those are totally disruptive, and those technologies are going to change the world. And really what happens is that's actually the technology trigger. So that technology trigger here starts the process. And that trigger can be a new product on the market, it can be a new modification of a product, and it can be something that is dedicated to teaching and learning that really makes us think, wow, that could help us and change what we're doing. And it's a digital technology usually that does that. So then what happens is we end up seeing this rise coming up to this peak of inflated expectations. And what happens is we get to this, we think, wow, this could totally change the world. My expectations for this are amazing. And then what happens is we start to see that drop really quickly. This happens over a relatively short period of time, and we end up getting to this trough of disillusionment where our expectations were so high, and then we come down, we're like, well, maybe this isn't going to be that thing that changes the world. But then from that trough of disillusionment, we start to creep back up. And that part is the slope of enlightenment. That's where we actually start to think about and use the technology in ways that benefit us in the classroom. It helps us understand where this technology can fit in our curriculum, where what the tools can do. And then once we figure some of those things out, this is again kind of globally as a whole group of teachers and learners with any particular technology, then we come over here and there's this piece here where we have a plateau of productivity where it levels out and we start to see, okay, now this technology is making an impact and it's in its own niche. So that's just a general overview of the Gartner hype cycle, and we see technologies in this hype cycle all the time. When you Google Gartner hype cycle, you'll notice that they will have little circles with technologies that are in different parts of this hype cycle. For instance, one technology that we can talk about would be Nearpod. Nearpod came on the market, and a lot of technology teachers saw Nearpod and thought, wow, this is a really good tool. Let's see what it can do. And Nearpod had a lot of changes in the first couple years, and they went through this process. And I would say that Nearpod is now kind of moving over here, about to hit the plateau of productivity, and we're able to start to see it level out and be used in classrooms. So that's just one example of the Gartner hype cycle being used. Now, Nearpod has not changed education overall. This is a hype cycle that really thinks about what our expectations are and what realities end up happening during this plateau of productivity.